Okay, so let's jump straight in and have a look at the question that I have chosen for you first tonight. So this question, the reason that I want to do it is because it's a little bit unusual. And it relates, well, not when I say unusual, it's not something that comes up frequently in matric maths. And it is something that came up in 2019 at the end of the year. And I just wanted to do this with you because it's a possibility that you could see this in your trials exams. And again, of course, at the end of the year. It's something that comes from grade 10. And a lot of the time we don't remember the things that we've been taught. So I thought this was a good opportunity to revise this concept with you. Okay, so let's look at the data first of all. It says to us, a survey was conducted among 100 people about the amount that they paid on a monthly basis for their cell phone contracts. The person carrying out the survey calculated the estimated mean, hope you can see this, hope it's big enough, to be 309 Rand per month. Unfortunately, he lost some of the data thereafter. The partial results of the survey are shown in the table below. Okay, so between 0 and 100 rands, there are 7 people. Between 100 and 200 rands, 12. 200 to 300 is A. 300 to 400 is 35. 400 to 500 is B. And 500 to 600 is 6. Okay, so the first question asks us, how many people paid 200 Rand or less on their monthly cell phone contracts? So remember, this is the whole thing about the ogive, is that it allows us to work out how many people or less than a particular amount. Okay, so how many people or less? Sorry, how many people paid 200 Rand or less on their monthly cell phone contract? What do you think from the data? Bearing in mind what we discussed the other day when we did cumulative frequency. What do you guys think? It's okay, Rafense. There we go. That's it, Lorraine and Gugu. Good. Okay, so both of you have said, oh, this is why it's not working. Sorry, I haven't plugged my pen in. I'm trying to write on the screen and I can't understand why it's not working. Okay, hang on.
Oh, I see.
Silly me.
I was figuring that
I'm like,
out. Just like, oh,
hey,
maybe
what's
we
going
just
on
still
here?
talking.
Hold on, sorry guys. There we go. That's better. Trying to write and it's not writing and I can't figure out why. Okay, so it's 19. Where does the 19 come from? How did Gugu and Lorraine get 19? Where are they looking? Exactly. Okay, so they've added the 12 and the 7 together. Okay, so 19 people paid 200 Rand or less for their monthly cell phone contract. That's it. Well done, guys. Okay, so that's 1 mark. Cool beans. We're happy with that. Let's have a look at the next question. So it says, use the information above to show that A is 24 and B is 16. Okay, so this is the question that I wanted to show you. All right, so if they've asked us to solve for A and for B, when they ask us to solve for 2 different variables, how do they want us to do this? Whenever we solve for 2 different variables, what is the method that we use? Exactly, we have to use simultaneous equations, 100%, all right? So now we've got to go back and look at the information that they have given us and try and make 2 equations from this information. Okay, so this is not an easy question at all, okay? The one concept we're going to have to revise, but I'm sure once we do that, you'll understand it. What information do we have that we can make equations out of, guys? Where is this information going to come from? Any ideas? Okay, so Lebogang, I see your suggestion, but why is that not going to work in this case? Why is it not just, we can't just say that 35 minus 19 is B. Why is that not going to work? Anybody else? What information do we have? Go back, look at the information that's here, and can you tell me what information have we got that we could use? What about the 100 people? Where would this total of 100 come from? Where would we get the 100? Okay, we've got the mean. That's right, Lebogang. We've got the mean. We have got the mean, and we're going to talk about that now. But this value over here, this 100 over here, how would we get that? Aha, Amahle, good. By adding the frequency column together, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this ogive over a little bit because we'll deal with that just now. Okay. And let's just talk about the first equation that we can make. So well done, Amahle, for spotting that. Let's just get that on the page. We have a total number of people. So we get that from the frequency. So we can make an equation out of that. We can say that 7 plus 12 plus A plus 35 plus B plus 6 adds up to 100. Okay, so we're going to add all of those together. So, oh, where's my calculator? Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so when we add our numbers together and we keep our A and our B on one side and take our number over to the other side, or make one of the variables the subject of the formula, what are we going to end up with as an equation? I'd end up with A plus B would be equal to what, matrix? There we go. Good. Yes. Menently, that's exactly what we are doing. Okay, so well done. There is the first equation. Okay, so now, Menentli, you said, will I show you how to do the estimated mean? That's exactly what I'm going to show you with this particular question. Okay, so here where we are showing that A is going to be 24 and that B is 16, we have to use the estimated mean to be able to do that. Okay, do you see here they tell you, they use the words estimated mean to be 309 Rand per month. Okay, so that's where they were dropping a clue that this question would have to be done in that way. All right. So when you calculate an estimated mean, I don't know if you guys remember this from grade 10, but the first thing that you need to do is you need to determine the midpoint of the class interval. So in other words, what we do is we look at the lower bound, we look at the upper bound, we add them together and we divide by 2. So 0 plus 100 would be 100 over 2. That would be 50. So the midpoint would be 50. Okay, Gugu, that's fine. So all we did, like Amatle had said, we get our frequency of 100 people by adding all the values in our frequency column together. That would be the total number of people. So I simply added up the frequency column, made it equal to 100, and then just simplified my equation so that I've got A plus B equals whatever it is, in this case, 40. Okay, Gugu? All right, so now I'm finding the midpoint of each column. So the midpoint of this column would be 150. The midpoint of this column would be 250. This one would be 350. This one would be 450. And this one would be 550. After you have found the midpoint of the column, or of the amount paid in rands, the next thing that you have to do is take your midpoint and you have to multiply it. Please mute. Thank you. You take the midpoint and you multiply it by the frequency. So in other words, to get this value over here, I'm going to multiply 50 by 7. That's going to leave me with 350. That's it, Mamelo. Okay, you guys will remember how to do this when we've got through it, all right? So the next one we're going to have to say 12 times 150. That gives us 1,800. Then we're going to say A times 250, because we don't know what it is. Here we're going to say 350 times 35. This is going to give us 12250. Then we've got 450 times B, so B times 450. And then the last one is 550 times 6, which gives us 3,300. Okay. Now, what we have to do is we have to add all of those together and then divide it by how many? We're going to add all of those together and we're going to divide it by what, guys? Can anyone remember? Why by 6? Why would you divide it by 6? How many people took part in the survey? 100. That's it, Emma Malene. Okay, so you've got to divide it by 100, and then you've got to make it equal to how much? I suppose that number's off the screen now, but you're going to make it equal to 309, which is the estimated mean. Okay, so this is what we would do. So now we're going to take the 350, we're going to add 1800, 250A, 12,250, 450B, 3,300. We are going to divide that by 100, and that matrix is equal to 309, which is the estimated mean. Remember, I highlighted that in blue at the beginning of the question. Okay, so we are dividing by 100 because there are 100 people that took part in this survey. All right, so just to go over that again, in order to work out what to add together, you have to take the midpoint of your class interval and multiply it by your frequency. You add all those values together, you divide by the number of values you've got. In this case, it would be 100 because there were 100 people, and that is equal to the estimated mean. In this case, that number is 309. So that is equation number 2. This is equation number 2. And these are the two that you need to solve simultaneously. Crazy question, right? Whoever would have thought that they could bring simultaneous equations into statistics? And they did. Okay, so quite a clever question, I think, but not very easy to start off with. All right, so let's add together all the numbers, all the like terms. I'm going to add together 350, 1,800, 12,250, and 3,300. Okay, so that's going to give me 17,700 plus 250A plus 450B. Now, I can't add those together because they're not like terms. And that would be equal to, I'm going to cross multiply the 309 with the 100. And that's going to give me 30900, like so. That's it. And then I'm going to take my 17,700 over to the other side. So that will leave me with 250A plus 450B is equal to 30,000 minus the 17,700, and I am left with 13,200. What I could do is I'm going to divide through by 10. That's going to give me 25A plus 45B equals 1,320. That just gets rid of that. Now, is 45 divisible by 25? No, it isn't. So I can't divide through by 25. In fact, I don't need to divide through anymore by anything, or I could work here at this 250. I just wanted to make the numbers a little bit smaller. Now what I'm going to do with this equation over here is I want to make something the subject of the formula. So let's say I decide to make A the subject of the formula. It's going to be equal to 40 minus B. So now I'm going to replace my A in my second equation with 40 minus B. And I'm going to solve for B first. So I need to expand my brackets. And then I want to collect my B terms one side and my number terms the other side. So if I've got 45B, oopsie, I left off the B here, and I minus 25B, I'm going to be left with 20B on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I've got 320 when I take that 1,000 over. And 320 divided by 20 means that B is equal to 16. Okay, so I've got the first part of my answer. B is equal to 16. Now when I want to solve for A, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to use that equation. All right, so now solving for A, I'd have A equals 40 minus 16, and I would get the 24 that they told me that A was equal to over there. Okay, so there you go. There is a revision question on the estimated mean in addition to doing a simultaneous equation. Are there any questions? Okay, Emma Malang, ma'am, you divided the 150 with what? 150? There was a 250. So Emma Malang, I don't know if this is the line that you mean, but from this line over here to that line, I divided by 10. Is that what you mean? Okay. All right. So let's go back and answer all these questions. Emma Malang, I'm not sure which 150 you're talking about. Okay, but I'm going to come back to you. So Tuelo, you asked me, how did I get the 25 times 40 minus B? So the 25 is here. There's the 25. And remember, I used my first equation, which was a plus b equals 40. I rearranged it to make a the subject of the formula, and then I subbed in what a was equal to. So a is 40 minus b. So Tuelo, I replaced this a here with the 40 minus b. That's where that comes from. Okay. All right. Okay, next person. Ayanda. The 309 was given, Ayanda. Okay, that was part of the question. So if I just go back over here, can you see here highlighted in blue? The estimated mean is 309. That was given. Okay. All right, next question. Tato, is it necessary to divide by 10 first? No, Tato, it's not. You could have worked with 250A plus 450B equals 13,200. I just wanted to make the numbers smaller, just to make it more manageable, but you don't have to do that, no. Okay. It's all right, Teddy, glad you're with us. All right, so is everybody okay? Any other questions? Okay, Stokozile, I was just trying to make the numbers smaller. It's not necessary to do that. We would still get the same answer if I hadn't have done that. I was just trying to make the numbers smaller and easier for us to work with. That's all. Okay, so you don't have to divide by the 10. You could have left it as 250A plus 450B equals 13,200. Okay. Well, Gugu, the question will tell you estimated mean. They'll have to say the estimated mean. So if you are dealing with grouped data, you can only calculate an estimated mean. I mean, when you've got individual data. So remember in the beginning, like when we go back to one of these lessons. All right. So here we had done this question together. Do you remember? Now this data is not grouped. Okay, so this is 15 innings by a cricket player. This is not group data. So here we could add all of these pieces of data together and divide by 15, and we could get our mean, which is what we did in 11.2. But what's completely different here is that this data is grouped. So you can only calculate an estimated mean. You can't calculate an actual mean. Right, so the reason that it's an estimate is because we're working with the midpoint of each interval. Okay, so we're taking an average of the amount of money paid in each class. You can't find the mean. You can't. You can only find an estimated mean with group data Menently. Okay, so they can't ask you to find a mean. It can only be an estimated mean with group data. Okay. So if the data is not grouped, then they can ask you to find a mean and you do it like we did it on the calculator. All right. Okay. Okay. Does this method come back to you now that you've seen it again? Do you remember seeing this in grade 10? Yes, no? Does it seem familiar now? So some people are saying yes, others are saying no. Okay. Shame. So some of you are saying no. Okay. All right. I do know. I'm very fortunate to teach at a school that was not badly affected by COVID, but I mean, obviously, that is not the norm. You know, most of us were badly affected by COVID, and I think that statistics were one of the things that they said they were going to trim from the curriculum and then add back in later. So maybe that's why for some of us it's something that we don't remember, because it actually wasn't taught. And then, of course, when we do start adding it back in and doing everything else, you know, we often run out of time. Okay, but anyway, you've seen it here now. You guys can come and watch this video again if you need to. But it's not a particularly difficult thing to do. All right, you just got to find the midpoint of each class interval, multiply it by the frequency, add that up, divide it by the number of pieces of data you've got, and that gives you your estimated mean. Okay, and you can only do that with grouped data. Okay. All right, so let's go on to the next question. They want us to write down the modal class. Okay, so the modal class is the group or class interval that has what? How do we know which one is the modal class? That's it, the one with the highest frequency. Okay, I'm just going to reply to somebody in the chat. Just 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right, so it is the one with the highest frequency. So that class is the 300 to 400 group, okay, because their frequency is 35. Okay, so the modal class is the class between 300 and 400. So greater than 300, but smaller than or equal to 400. That is the modal class. So 1 mark for that. Oh, by the way, we didn't talk about this. Where would our marks be allocated? So here there would obviously just be 1 mark for our answer. Well, they would have to give us marks for making the equations. Here, I think they would give you a mark for accurately simplifying that. They would have to give you a mark for substituting. I wonder perhaps if that would also give us a mark for that one over there, because they're not going to give us any marks for the answers because those were given to us. So the idea is that even if we weren't able to answer this question, we could at least continue with the rest of the question. Okay, all right, let's go back. On the grid provided in the answer book, draw an ogive or a cumulative frequency graph to represent the data. Okay, so I have gone and got the ogive. It's just off the screen at the moment. There it is over there. And you guys would have a similar thing in your exam. Okay, so fortunately, nobody expects you to create the grid. That would be given to you, which is really cool. All you have to do is plot the points. Okay, so going back and having a look at our table, where is the first point? Yeah, please, can you mute? Please mute. Thank you. Okay, so when I say our first point, what I actually mean to say is where is our x-intercept going to be? What is our x-intercept? Remember, we said we have to have an x-intercept. Okay, so a lot of you are saying 0 and 7. Okay, this is unfortunately not true. There we go, Menentle and Mamelo. You guys are correct. Okay, our intercept, our x-intercept, is going to be at the point 0 and 0. Remember, matrix, we use this value over here as the x-coordinate at our x-intercept. Y will always be equal to 0 on the x-axis. Okay, so that value, the smaller value, or the smallest value in the first class, the one on the left-hand side, that is always going to be your x-intercept. Now, the other problem, or not problem, but the question was, what's the x-intercept? Sidiso? Okay, so Lebogang, that's always our x-intercept. Okay, it's always going to be this number over here. The value on the left of the x in our first class interval. That's always our x-intercept. Okay. So yes, Lesejo, you get a mark for your x-intercept. That's why I was emphasizing it with you. Okay, so again, if we go back and look at our cumulative frequency, okay, remember we did this question together. Okay, and here I pointed out to you guys that our x-intercept, look, even the writing is still there. Our x-intercept was at 10 and 0. So have a look here. Look at your class interval. Your smallest class interval, okay, was between 10 and 20. Okay, so that's why our x-intercept was at 10 and 0. So if we have a look at our first point, there it is. It's not at the origin. It's at 10 and 0. Okay, so very important, you are always going to get a mark for your x-intercept. So that has to be in the correct place. The other thing that we need to calculate here, Matrix, is our cumulative frequency. Okay, they've given us frequency, but we don't have cumulative frequency. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip it in over here. All right, so our frequency, our cumulative frequency for this group would be 7. This would be 19, our running total. Okay, so we know that A was equal to 24 and that B was equal to 16. So to work out the number that's going to go in this block over here, I've got to add 24 to 19. Okay, that would give me 43. Then to get the next value, I'm going to add 35 to 43. That gives me 78. Then I'm going to add 16. That gives me 94. And then I'm going to add 6 and I'm going to get 100. Okay, now I'm expecting that. Do you remember this? Okay, we did this Thursday last week. Good, you remember. Oh, nice. Well done. Okay, so I have to get 100. And remember, I'm expecting an S-shaped curve. And when I plot my values, this is my X, and this is my corresponding Y coordinate. Okay, so after drawing my x-intercept at the origin, so that's going to be over there, my next point is going to be at 107 on the y-axis. So I'm going to find 100, and then 7 on the y-axis would be there. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to plot 200 against 19. So 200 against 19 would be just about there. Does everybody know where I'm getting these values from? And 300 against 43. Does everybody see where I'm getting this? Yes, you okay. All right. Oh, good. Okay, so 300 against 43. 300 against 43 would be there. Okay, and let's just go back. And now we've got 400 against 78. 400 against 78 is there. 78. Okay. Almost there. 500 against 94. 500 against 90. So there's 90, there's 94. And then it was 600 against 100. Okay, just go back and double check. 600 against 100, yes. Okay, so what you will find is it starts off slowly and then it has a steep incline and then it levels off again. Okay, and now you have to connect the dots. Make sure you go through every single dot. Okay, and remember, it's got to be a smooth curve. Okay, you can't be sort of, doing like that. It can't be like that. Okay, so we might use the word sketch, but it needs to be a smooth curve. So I'm going to try and do my best. Ooh, that's not brilliant, but unfortunately this writing pad that I have is a little bit difficult to draw these sorts of graphs on, but there we go. Okay, a smooth S-shaped curve like so. All right. Now, this was out of 4 marks. So there is going to be a mark for your x-intercept. There is going to be a mark for having a smooth curve. And then there would be 2 accuracy marks for plotting your points. Okay, so you'd get 2 marks if you plotted all correctly, and maybe here you'd get 1 mark maybe if you plotted 1 correctly. Okay, and that's how that would be marked. Everybody happy with that? Cool beans. Okay. Okay, good. All right. So we are now on to question 2.5. So a very common question after we have plotted our cumulative frequency curve, they would ask us then to interpret information based off of that. So now the question says, determine how many people paid more than 420 Rand per month for their cell phone contract. Okay, so how many people paid more than 720 Rand for their cell phone contract? Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4. Okay, so there's 20. I just need to make this bigger. Oh, but if I do that, it's going to affect my curve. Okay, I should have thought about that before. All right. So unfortunately, sorry, I should have made this curve a lot bigger when I actually plotted it, because then it would be a little bit easier for you guys to see. Okay. If we count the number of lines in between, there are 10 lines until we get to a major unit. Okay, so we're going up in tens here. Is everybody happy with that? The minor units on the x-axis, we're going up in tens. So 420, let me put a nice bright pink line there. 420 matrix would be here. Okay, I can always move my line later on. Wow, made it way too long. Okay, hold on a second. Let's, not that that really matters. Okay, let's just drag it over just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. 420. Bang on. Okay, can we all see that? Okay, so Emma Maleng, the question says, how many people paid more than 420 Rand per month for their cell phone? Okay, so we're going to talk about how we're going to get this now. So we're going to go to the 420 and we're going to go up. We're going to get to where our curve is, and now we need to read off to the left-hand side. So now again, I'm going to use my ruler, okay? You guys need to use your rulers for questions like this, okay? And then show that you have used your ruler. All right, so now I'm going to go down. I'm going to grab my pink line. Come, pink line. And I'm going to go down to there. Okay, so where it crossed over here, I'm now going to read off on the left-hand side. Okay, so if this was bigger, it would be a little bit easier to see, but I say that that's about 82. What do you guys think? Looks like 82 to me. This line over here is 82. Exactly. Now, how many, so 82 people, okay, people paid 420 Rand or less. So how many more people were there above 82, given that the total number of people was 100? How many people? Yes, round about 82. So I might say they would be flexible on this. They'd allow us to go a little bit either way. Okay, so 82 people paid 420 Rand or less. So how many more people are there in the survey than these 82? Exactly, there are 18 people. So you've said 100 minus that 82. Okay, so 1 mark here is for showing that you have read off this information. The other mark is for your answer. Okay, so it would be 100. Whoopsie, that's 10. 100 minus 82 would be about 18 people. Okay. Okay, so don't forget to show where you have read that information off if that's what they are asking. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Are there any questions before we go on? Okay, cool. So we're all happy. Cool,
Hopefully they took
Ntokozo.
screenshots.
Yeah, hopefully you took screenshots. No questions. All right, lovely. Okay, so let's go and have a look at something else. Okay, so I just wanted to come back to this. This question combined the scatter plot with the mean and the standard deviation. Okay, so I thought that this was quite a nice question for us to do as well. Okay, so let's have a look at the information. It tells us that the matric class of a certain high school had to vote for the chairperson of the RCL. The scatter plot below shows the IQ, intelligence quotient, of the 10 learners who received the most votes and the number of votes that they received. So if you have a look at the scatter plot, it really is a scatter plot, isn't it? It's kind of all over the place. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so intelligence quotient, the IQ, is on the x-axis, and the number of votes the person received is now on the y-axis. It then says to us, before the election, the popularity of each of these 10 learners was established, and a popularity score out of 100 was assigned to each. The popularity scores and the number of votes of the same 10 learners who received the most votes are shown in the table below. So there's their popularity score out of 100, and the number of votes they received is in the row below it. The first thing that they asked us to do is to calculate the mean number of votes that these 10 learners received. Okay, I'm going to let you guys do that. And you can also answer the next question, the standard deviation of the number of votes that these 10 learners received. You guys do that quickly. Okay, so it's not an estimated mean, it's just a normal mean. Okay, it's not group data. Okay, and when you're done, you can say that you're done. Okay, good stuff. Well done, Gugu. Okay, but now hang on, guys. Menenhle, I think you're working with the wrong data, Menenhle. I think you're working with the X. You're supposed to be working with the Y. Okay, in this case. Yes, Gugu, that's perfect. Okay, so it's not their mean popularity score. It's the mean number of votes. Look here. Okay, so that's why it's so important that we read our questions carefully. The mean number of votes. Okay, so the votes is actually the Y in this case. Okay, no, you can't choose that's the least squares regression line. Okay, so all right. Maybe what I should do is call up my calculator. All right. Hang on one second. I'm just going to go to my screen here and get that up and then come back. I don't think you guys can see the Can you see the calculator on the screen at the moment? Yolanda, can you see it?
No, I don't see it.
Oh, okay. All right. So just hang on one second. I just need to, okay, I've got to share my screen. Okay. Let's just have a look.
Now I can see it.
Can you see the calculator now, guys? Can
Yes.
everyone see it? Okay. Yes. So the mean, that's correct. Luzuko, Mikhail, Renee. Yes, 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 yes. Lovely. Okay. So perfect. You should have got a mean number of votes, 15,5. And in this case, you're calculating the mean of Y. So it would be like that. And then your standard deviation in this case, you should have got 4,59. There we go. All right, so it was this row over here that they were asking us to work with in this case. Okay, so there would be 2 accuracy marks on your answer here, answer only, and then 1 mark on your standard deviation. Okay, so don't let it be, yeah, you round off to 2 decimal places. Okay, round off to 2 decimal places, always, always, always. Okay, so Menenhle, what they would have to do is they'd have to specify what they wanted you to find the mean of. Okay, so like in a question, now hang on a second. If we go back here, they wanted us to find the mean number of runs. So here, this was, you would have just added these together. There wasn't a second piece of information here. So that's what's important. If they are giving you 2 pieces of information, like they've done in this situation where you've got, where were we? Over here, where you've got popularity score and number of votes, make sure that you read the question carefully because they'll tell you what they want, but they can't ask you to find the mean of both together because you've got 2 different variables here. Okay, so you can't add the 2 things together, right? So eminently, when you said you can use a plus bx to find the mean, is that what you mean? That's to find the least squares regression line is a plus bx. Okay, so but that's not what they were asking us to do here. They weren't asking us to find the equation of the least squares regression line. Okay. All right. So in 1.2, the learners who received fewer votes than 1 standard deviation below the mean were not invited for an interview. How many learners were invited? Okay. I'm going to let you guys do that question as well. Okay, so learners who received fewer votes than 1 standard deviation below the mean were not invited for an interview. I'm going to let you answer that question, and you guys are going to tell me. Okay, so Gugu's. Sorry, guys. So how many learners were invited for the interview? Matrix? Okay. Okay, so Menendle says 7, Botumelo says 8, Gugu says 8, a few people say 8. All right, so I would say 9, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so let's have a look at this question together. Okay. You also see 7, Lebogang. All right. Well, the first thing that we would have to do when we answer this question is calculate what 1 standard deviation below the mean is. All right. So that means that we have to say 15,5 minus 4,59. So when we've got 15.5 and we minus 4.59, you get 10,91. Okay, you guys are right. It is 8. I'm wrong. Okay, so that means that this person over here will not be interviewed because they only got 9 votes. This person over here will also not be interviewed because they only got 10. Everybody else got more than 10.91. So that leaves 8 learners. Quite right. Okay, so therefore 8 learners. Okay. That's right. Okay, so perfect. Okay, so we'd have to calculate this and then say how many learners in order to get our marks. What don't you understand, Lindelwa? So they wanted us to work out the number of people who were invited, but anybody who was less than 1 standard deviation of the mean did not get invited. So we took 1 standard, this is the standard deviation, we took it away from our mean, and we got a lower bound of 10.91. So 10 is smaller than 10.91 and 9 is smaller than 10.91. So there are 2 people out of the 10 that did not get enough votes to be called for an interview. All right. Now, Menendle, you've been dying to work out the equation of the least squares regression line. Now's your chance. Okay. So in 1.3, they want the equation of the least squares regression line. Now you're going to use a plus bx. Okay. So Menendle, in this case, yes. So if they said, well, the reason why you subtracted here is because they said 1 standard deviation below. So the word below is what implies that you should subtract. If they said 1 standard deviation above the mean, then they're implying that you should that you should add?